she doesn't come in and they go like, great lashes. Nobody could care less. They're like, where's my bananas?
It's time to take A Therapeutic Dose, a prescription-strength reality TV podcast that explores the intersection of reality TV and therapy. Possible side effects may include entertainment, strong emotional reactions, and/or laughter. Here are your hosts, Ramona Ramirez and Margee McGee.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Therapeutic Dose, where we meet at the intersection of reality TV and therapy. I am Margee McGee, and with me, as always, is my dear friend and co-host.
Hi, everyone. I am Ramona Ramirez. Hi, Margee. It's really good to see you.
You too. I don't know what's going on. There appears to be yard work happening, so I apologize if there's new background noise this week, but, Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, my kid has 2 more days off until school starts, so we might hear a remote control car.
Oh.
Shenanigans upstairs, possibly Legos being dropped on a wood floor, So what are you going to do? The glamorous life of a podcaster without professional studios. This is just what we do.
This is it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we're here to talk about the Real Housewives of Orange County this week. And I actually wasn't mad at this episode. I thought it was kind of a return to form to some of our old school heroes. Like I liked, there were moments where I saw flashes of old Emily and a likable Gina and even like a hopeful Shannon, there was some glimmers of hope here. So
yeah, I almost felt the same way about Dubrow, which was crazy. Like I don't know. I feel life is real lifey right now. Life is like really, I'll just come clean at the beginning of the episode. Not come clean, but just kind of share. So we were in San Diego last week. My mother-in-law has been very sick, and she passed away, I think, the day after we got there. And no, I think it was the very day that we got there. And it was the same day we got there, right? So I think she was holding on to say goodbye to my husband in whatever way she was able to say goodbye, mentally, psychically, whatever. And so it's just been a real weird week of that kind of feeling like, that feeling, okay, I'm going to speak for myself. That first time you have to leave the house after you've broken up with someone and you have to go to work. And so you have to like put on the outfit and the makeup. You don't have to do those things, but I'm just saying that's what I did. And like you have to prepare yourself to walk into your office or wherever your place of work is and kind of put on that mask. But on the inside, you have that feeling of vulnerability that's so raw that you just feel like a breeze could blow you over or someone could look at you wrong and you'll cry. It's felt like that for at least ever since we got home. It was one thing when we were in San Diego. We stayed with dear friends. We were able to see a few dear friends. There was not a lot of time. And then obviously experience the joy of like Legoland and a hotel pool through our kids' eyes, which was really, it's always nice. But now we're home. There are still suitcases to be put away. And I need to go to the grocery store and just like all of these things that make me feel like I don't have the external skin I need. This is my long-winded way of saying that when I'm in this vulnerable spot, I didn't always understand what Heather was saying, but I didn't see like just pure self-centered bullshit. I saw like who real Heather is. I saw probably the Heather that her kids see. I saw Heather that Terry sees. Oh, I could cry right now. I'm not crying over Heather Dubrow. Don't get shit twisted. And there was one scene where I could really relate to Alexis fucking Bellino, and that really was some humbling stuff right there.
There was a lot. Like I softened a lot in this episode. It's certainly nothing that will sustain my opinion of these women, but occasionally I was like, oh, I see you. I see a softer side of you. I see a more honest, less performative side of you.
Yes.
I like that.
And I think it's because they were being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
The one I didn't have the feelings of, Tamra.
No, she was
Because
worse than ever.
Tamra was full fucking Tamra. Everyone else that was vulnerable, like, I really embraced it. Shannon, Gina and Emily, Jen.
Heather
Oh
had a
my
moment.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone really seemed to. Katie, I don't know about Alexis, TBD, but we don't really know her very well in this iteration other than just her whole vibe is John Jansen. But it was a good episode.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we start in Palm Springs.
This is season 18,
Oh,
episode 7 of The Real Housewives of Orange County. The gloves are off, in case no one noticed the title.
the gloves are off.
The gloves are off.
I guess, is that like a reference to the, oh, right. Of course. John Jansen. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, is that about Shannon not using a pot holder to hold a pan handle? I'm
Oh,
an idiot.
God. No, you're not.
No, she literally says the gloves are off, and they repeat it a number of times. It's a
They
full
do.
like motif through the episode, and I'm like, what does that mean? This is why I don't read the titles. Just put me in my head.
Save yourself.
Thank
Save
you.
yourself. Yeah.
We sort of check in Palm Springs, and then we go to Big Bear, where Tamra joins Alexis and Jen in their room, and they decide they all like Katie, and how are they going to get Heather Dubrow to like her? So
Did you
dumb.
notice? I noticed this last week, and then I noticed it again yesterday. Did you notice that Tamra and Alexis are wearing matching T-shirts, and it says T&A on the front, and then right underneath it says hashtag Tamra and Alexis. On the back of Tamra's, it says, I got the ass. On the back of Alexis's, it says, and I got the titties. They've been on this show together for, okay, I guess this is the 7th episode. So they've been shooting for all intent. Well, no, we don't even know that they've been shooting for 7 weeks. Doesn't this mean that they were like in cahoots about taking Shannon down and making,
Oh, yeah.
torturing Shannon, their storyline? Like, this is a thing. Like, they've already got T-shirts.
Which is also crazy considering that Tamra just had to pay $300,000 to her ex-husband. And whether or not her name, Alexis's name, was on the lawsuit, she knew about it. She did not object to it. She's never said anything like, that should never have happened. I'm so embarrassed. Nothing. So it's really self-serving. Tamra's so transparent, and I really don't enjoy her.
She's
I
disgusting.
did not notice those T-shirts. How ridiculous. A hashtag already?
A hashtag.
Is this the new Tres Amigas? Is that, are we doing
I'm
TNA?
sure, or
the
we're
tour
or,
now?
Right. We're going for another podcast. Maybe when Teddy is busy,
Stupid
Teddy's
Teddy.
being Teddy. It's gonna be Alexis and Tamra. I just, and just like the T and A, like of course it has to be that. Of course it has to come back
Just
to
the lowest hanging fruit,
right
in every sense.
Oh my God.
Then we switch back to Palm Springs, and we see we're in the kitchen there, and there's some like underlying tension between Gina and Emily, and Gina's uncomfortable with it, but Emily doesn't want to talk because she's trying to avoid being aggressive, which is what she's heard Gina is saying about her. And then Shannon burns her hand on the panhandle after she told everyone, be careful, don't touch this with your
God.
bare hand. And then
In there.
1 second later, I do it all the time. It's amazing.
In there. It sucks.
I remind myself in my head, like, don't touch this. And then all of a sudden, I'm picking it up. And then I thought this was interesting. In Big Bear, Alexis is drinking a Red Bull, and Jen asks if she prefers Red Bull over coffee. And Alexis starts an answer about menopause, and they're all like, what? You're crazy. Meanwhile, I followed her thought path completely, and I was like, Alexis has ADD, because I'm like right there with her. I'm like, she's getting there. What she's saying is the menopause is potentially, the cause of a change of taste or whatever. But they're so impatient and shitty, and, that was a moment where I had a soft spot for Alexis and all people with ADD. It's like, we're hard to understand sometimes, and it requires patient people to be our friends. And fuck Tamra and Jen for being like, just say coffee or bleh. Stupid.
That was the most relatable scene in the entire episode for me. Completely. I was like, that is how I answer a question. I give full-ass backstory, full-ass roadmap, step-by-step turn directions, and it feels normal to me. Yeah, and I wonder if that's an ADHD thing. Is it possibly like a child of an alcoholic, desperate need to be understood thing? Is it a woman thing? Is it a perimenopause, like brain fog thing? Like, it could be all of the above. I don't know, but yes, I totally got it. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, okay, I can relate to that. It's a day-by-day thing for me, if I can drink coffee in the morning or not.
I mean, Yeah. It was more to me just the way she answered the question.
Oh
I
yeah.
assumed it was ADD just because to me, in her head, she already answered the question. It's do you
Yep.
prefer Red Bull
Yep.
over coffee? And she's like, not sure. And then just went on with the explanation instead
Yep.
of starting with the answer.
Yep.
Because it's
Yep.
sort of like my mouth isn't always caught up with what my brain is doing. And then I leave people
Yes.
out of very important like parts of the train of thought
God. Yes.
and I lose
Yes.
them. And yeah. So
For sure. For sure. Oh my
yeah.
God. It's happened so many times. So many times. Very relatable scene. I was really
Yes.
glad. And it was like, wow, like Jen and Tamra just couldn't relate. And I'm like, really?
I know. But I
Yeah.
also
And
feel like it's personality traits for both of them. Tamara is
totally.
always looking to make fun of someone.
Oh
Jen
God.
is a pleaser, so if Tamara says something, she's going to hop on that, so I'm not sure even how
Yeah.
authentic that moment was. I really didn't Tamara gave me like nothing that felt real this episode, so I don't trust her even
Oh,
with this stupid
absolutely not.
conversation.
I don't trust her one little teeny tiny bit. Yep. Yep.
And then we head back to Palm Springs. Everyone's having breakfast outside, and everyone said this was fun. And Heather says she's glad because she didn't have a good time at the golf event, and Gina's dinner went south. And it's just like, it's always all about you, you asshole. And then Shannon says she didn't have any intention of bringing up her legal and financial issues with John Jansen at Gina's dinner. And Emily, I thought this was interesting, said it made Shannon look dishonest that John Jansen had given her, in the world of over $100,000. Because it's true, Shannon had always claimed that she paid for everything in that relationship. And she'd never made mention that, like, oh, finally, John is making restitution or,
Right.
and that is a little like,
It's so funny because I didn't catch that at all. I feel like knowing who Shannon is, yes, we're all complicated as human beings. We're all super complicated. But knowing that Shannon is extremely sensitive and I don't want to say an open book. Well, you know what? No, I can. I feel like the woman is allowed some secrets on reality TV, like the deepest, darkest points of her marriage with David Bador.
well,
I
you're
don't
not going to
fault her.
broadcast your facelift.
Right,
I mean, I
exactly.
would,
And
but
so it's like she's allowed to keep some things close to the vest, obviously. But I never, like, knowing who Shannon is, she's never been a liar, a manipulator, and a manipulator is debatable because that's a whole ass spectrum and a whole ass other episode on how a problem drinker can manipulate people. So I take that one back. My main point is that lying about how much she spent in her relationship over the years with John Jansen didn't feel like something that she would do. And so for her friends to be like, oh, well, we thought that you paid for everything. It's like, I wouldn't have questioned it. So
it's more that like lie of omission thing, right? Because
hmm,
Shannon, again, I'm assigning all alcoholic qualities to her. I feel like she is most comfortable in the role of a victim. And I bet at
yes.
the beginning of their relationship, she did pay for anything. And then she just didn't make mention when John handed over $100,000 at a certain point, which feels like if you spent your whole relationship saying he never pays for anything, I'm constantly paying for everything. And then six figures changes hands and you don't
Hmm.
think to mention
Okay.
it and you didn't
Okay.
tell anyone you got a facelift. Like it's just
Okay.
weird. It's a little
Okay.
like I mean, I don't think it's like damning, but I hadn't thought of it until Emily said it, and then I was like, yeah, I guess that is a little like, what is the truth?
Hmm. That makes sense. That makes sense. I can see that. I can see that. That makes total sense. I don't know why I didn't grok that, but I didn't.
I mean, because it's really not that big of a deal, but it just is like, yeah, I get where suddenly you'd be like, what is ever the true story? Like when people, for me, when I catch people in small white lies, it's more alarming than when I
Oh my
catch them
God.
in one big one because I'm like, how often are you doing this? Is this happening all the time? If I ask you, I'm not going to believe you when you tell me, no, you haven't ever lied before. These are the two other little I won't believe you anymore because you really tried to get away with something and it's weird and I hate it.
I agree 100%.
Or the whole thing of like, I didn't think you'd care. It's like,
Right.
it's happened to me where people close to me have like taken vacations that I would have wanted to be a part of. And then they're like, it's weird that they're suddenly just like, yeah, we leave this weekend for XYZ. And I'm like, huh? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
Mm-hmm. Because I didn't understand Heather's thing about the prosecution makes a good story, and that's why you have to listen to the defense, because Shannon is the prosecution. And I swear I watched that scene 4 or 5 fucking times, and I was like, I don't understand what she's talking about. Shannon's making perfect sense. Like, she should be the prosecution in this case. What I understand that now is that, okay, you told us how much he didn't pay for, and then you neglected to tell us that he did. So that was to be considered a payback. But then why is he suing her if he's paying her back?
Because he's clearly an asshole. And that's the thing that is extra upsetting is like, Shannon, why didn't you just tell the truth? Because he's not a hero because he did that. He's still a rotten piece of shit. He's still dating your friend, threatening to release Ring camera footage of the worst night of your life. I'm with Emily later on when it's like, if you guys are so happy, why are you both gathered around the cauldron stirring this shit up? Just go fuck and leave him alone.
Right.
But, yeah, and he's suing her. She offered to settle and he won't take it. Like, it's just punitive. And that's a bad person. That's a bad person. Because at one point in his life, he wanted to give her $100,000. And now he's mad at her because she dragged his name into the public eye related to this DUI. And so this is how he's going to get her back, is by humiliating her the same way he feels humiliated. And it's fucking exhausting.
It's gross. It's, yeah,
And
okay.
mean.
I don't know why I could not understand this.
It was weird. It was sort of like an abstract concept they were trying to land here, but
there was a lot of speculation on Reddit over the weekend about why it's such a big deal. Because what was Alexis talking about that was the last straw that broke the camel's back, and now the gloves are off? Was it the fact that was that the same day that Shannon's attorney had reached out to John's attorney or to John and said, this is what we're proposing? And when he said no, like that was the last straw, like that she had made the settlement offer.
I mean, I imagine that the settlement offer was, I ran into this with a situation I was involved in. It was probably more than money. It was probably like, I'll give you, $40,000 and you will be sued within an inch of your life if you ever speak of this again publicly.
Yes, that's exactly.
And I'm sure he was just like, no.
Yep.
And I also feel like that's bullshit. Like, you don't get to, if you've done something, I don't know. Like, I was asked to sign an NDA and I fought it and it took a long time. I was asked to sign an NDA after like an unpleasant work situation came to a close. And I said no, because I didn't do anything wrong. And then they said, well, how about a non-disparagement agreement? And I was like, but the truth of the matter is disparaging. So I have to worry about ever talking about this story and being sued to death if I do? No. So it took a really long time for that settlement to finally like come to its close, just because there were all those weird little like,
right.
Them trying to put in protections for themselves, which is, you can ask, but you can't be pissed off if someone is mad about that being added to the bill.
That was definitely part of the discourse was it probably did include something like that. Like, you don't get to keep trashing this woman in the press.
Mm-hmm.
And that the money piece is like, why is Alexis crying over it? Like, and so people were like, I bet you anything he said, well, that's the money I could use to buy an engagement ring for you, but until I get it back, I won't be able to. And so that's why
I have a different take.
Oh,
I think
please.
That kind of crying, lying on her back, hand on her head, sobbing, that is mother grief. And it is all being displaced on Shannon because, like you say, there's power in anger and there's only this strange surrender to a new world that's out of your control because you've never existed in a world where your mom wasn't here before. That kind of crying was not, it can't be about Shannon Bedore's facelift, like, it's the fact that she's missing the tenderness, the person in her life that didn't act like Shannon Bedore. Like, there just seems like something so much heavier going on inside of Alexis.
That makes sense.
And John is helping her transfer that into this stupid situation.
Oh, my God.
At the end of the day, it's a breakup and they're fighting over a facelift. It's not worth, like, Yeah. Anyways.
No, it was, oh, God. Just to wrap up the end of that La Quinta scene when they're all rallying around Shannon and Shannon's like, I haven't, like, this is something I would have gone to Tamra about in the past. And lo and behold, these women can uphold me just as well as Tamra could. I would venture better because I don't know. I don't think that anyone should trust any of these. I think that Gina and Emily can probably trust each other. I don't know if anyone else can trust anyone else. That's the nature of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know how that relationship sausage is made. Like, I get it. They do seem more trustworthy and able to support Shannon through this way more than Tamra probably could have before any of this other stuff went down, you know?
Yeah.
But
And
I did see them being supportive, but to the extent that Shannon need to like cry over it, I don't know. But then again, she's probably beating herself up so much right now that like any kind of tenderness or love being sent her way, not that I'm projecting or anything, any kind of tenderness being sent her way probably feels so overwhelming. And like,
mm,
if she is full of self-hatred and self-loathing, like she's probably like, oh God, am I worthy of this? Can I take this in? Do I deserve this?
yeah, I think that's true.
You
And this
know?
was a moment when, Gina asked the question like, were you trying to buy the relationship after Shannon disclosed that she spent 10 grand for John's daughter's birthday weekend up in LA? And this is the one moment where I appreciated Heather said, when you're in a relationship, it feels like it's in the same pot. And I think that's true. And I think we've talked about it on this show before. Like, that's why money becomes such a weird, contentious thing in a divorce, because it's your last chance to sort of flex some sort of power. But the agreement until you hate each other is that you're a team. It's the team's money,
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I liked, Gina, I believed her when she said that, they all support Shannon and they want to see her through this. And Emily said, your mental health is worth more than any dollar amount. And I understand why Shannon was overwhelmed. Like, those were such direct comments of like, we
That's
care
very
about
true.
you.
Yeah.
It's not about your DUI. It's not about how much you spent. Like, your health and well-being and presence here on this planet matters
Yeah.
more than any of that. And I think
Yeah.
that she probably hasn't heard that, in a long time. So,
Agreed.
and then they adjourned to
Agreed.
play pickleball and Heather doesn't clear her plate. And I was like, of course she didn't.
She's like, I'm going to take my pineapple.
I know.
And then I thought, was that like a staged thing so that they could get the little, like, were they all in on
Oh,
it? Like, why is she making a point of saying, I'm going to carry my pineapple? Because you could carry your pineapple and carry your plate.
not if you're Heather Dubrow. The
Not if you're
help
Heather
will come get
Dubrow.
your dirty
Yeah, I
plate.
guess so. I don't know. It was wild. That little ending was something. I have to admit, I really liked Heather's confessional look in I'm assuming it's a Dolce & Gabbana dress. It seems very Dolce. The strapless, gathered, big roses and the
Hmm.
hair.
Half up.
I liked it. The half up, half down. I liked that look. I will
It's
admit that.
so I like the look. She's just such like a joyless model. I feel like if it was
Yeah.
on anybody who had any light on the inside, it would be complete. And that look is great. I understand what the stylist did, but like the model is dead. She's an
Yeah,
ice
I hear
cold
what you're
corpse.
saying.
So it's like,
Totally.
oh.
Totally.
Then we go back to Big Bear, and all the girls are sitting around, and Katie asks Jen about Will, who apparently the night before Jen had revealed that Will, her ex-husband, is unreliable at picking up the kids. So there was some concern, but I guess that all went fine. And then on the heels of that, we find out that Will, her ex-husband, has been in a 3-year relationship with Jen's former friend and interior designer, Laura. And then there's a big co-parenting slash divorced parents conversation. And I really appreciated Jen when she said, you're supposed to get divorced and hate your ex, but I don't hate Will. And she sobbed over an Instagram video that Tamra showed her of Will and the kids having a game night. And Jen noticed that Will was like alive, happy, full of life. And she's like, he was never like that with me. And it's just
Oh,
hard to see
God.
that. And later we find out that she never could get his interest in spending time with her. Like that marriage, as much as I'm shocked that she left any marriage for Ryan, like hearing this stuff, he's unreliable picking up the children. He, with her, exhibited no signs of joy or life. And he didn't want to spend any time with her. That's a hard marriage to stay in.
Dude.
You know, maybe Ryan was just the off ramp.
Yeah. He does, at least on camera, he heaps on, like, even though anyone with eyes can see that it's just platitudes that he speaks to her in, it doesn't feel genuine to me. I mean, it feels like it's so granted. Okay, granted, we don't see them off camera, but I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility to imagine that Ryan is just disingenuous in everything he does, you know? But out of the mouth of babes, this scene with Jen, she is so good at just getting to like the kernel of the issues so quickly. I admire that in her. It just seems like it's just a genuine trait that she has. She didn't have to go to therapy to learn how to like get to the core of what's underneath that, Jen? If we look underneath that, what is that? Oh, it's sadness that Will wasn't that buoyant with me. It's like she just recognizes shit immediately. How do you get to be like that? It's taken me forever and ever to be able to just like nail something down like that. And she was just fucking TED Talk level, like clear, no filler, no having to figure it out, just accessed the truth.
And her immediate willingness to not villainize someone who everyone's prepared to be like, yeah, fuck him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's unreliable. That's a terrible guy. It's like, instead she's like, I don't hate him. All I want is a better co-parenting relationship. And yes,
Damn.
I was mad and lashed out when I first learned that he was dating my friend. Anyone would, you know?
Hello?
But yeah, you're right. She really does have she's figured out some like very meaningful shortcut to like bypassing all of the machinations that I do first, which is either like fully victimizing myself and villainizing them or really looking for what's great about them. And she just lands right in the sweet spot of like, I don't hate him. I just want a better co-parenting relationship. It's like, whoa.
Totally.
You really
Totally.
bypassed like weeks of things that I would have talked about first.
Years in therapy for me to be like, oh, I know what this is. Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. It was incredible. So kudos.
Yeah.
To Jen. And then, of course, Tamra has to make it about her and Sydney. And while I don't know. Maybe I'll just end it like that because I don't want to be a dick.
It's just, there's just no self-reflection at all. It's like she blames everyone, including God. She's like, I don't understand God. Why would he take my child away? It's like, well, why don't you look at your part? Remember when Sabrina, right? That's her name. Sabrina asked, or is it one of them?
Sydney?
Is Sydney the one
Sophia.
who's on? Oh, right.
Sophia is the one that's on camera.
Okay.
Yeah, she's the one that said, take it to your therapist.
Right. Sydney has asked Tamra to not mention her on screen, to not talk about her. And all Tamra does is continue. And you wonder why she doesn't return your calls, because she doesn't feel safe, because she feels like in a confessional, you're going to report on it or you're going to show the text to the camera. You're not a safe place. You're not reliable. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Tamra was willing to quit the show if she could restore a relationship with that child, but she's not willing to quit the show. So that's your side
No
of the
way.
street, honey. Like,
Totally.
I'm so sorry for your loss. And also, there are things you have not yet tried to restore that relationship. So I don't feel sorry for you yet. It's not a total
Yeah.
loss. You haven't done everything there is to do. So boo-hoo.
I can't imagine what motivation Tamra would give her for wanting to pursue that relationship again. I mean,
I think Tamra's using it. Why would she bring it
That's
up?
gross.
This
That's
is
even just more
Jen's moment,
disgusting.
talking about
Yeah.
Jen's, and she's like, do you ever feel like that? It's like, if your daughter has asked you for years, implored you not to bring this up, this is one of those moments. You're sober, it's morning, you have all your faculties about you. This is a moment where you could think it and not say it on camera, but not Tamra Judge.
Nope.
Douche.
She's making choices, man. She's
She
making
really
choices.
is.
Oh, God. And just doubles, triples, quadruples down. And she keeps losing. I guess she's not losing, though, if she's on TV and getting her money, which is all she really cares about, apparently. And
That's the thing is like it
her
speaks
little
to
sound bites. And
if she was honest about her value system, she has, like everyone, she has everything she wants, but has had to make some compromises. And for her, it's worth compromising your daughter. For her, it's worth it to be a Trace Amiga and to have two T's in a pod and like, congratulations. You're a high profile person. That's great.
yeah,
But you had, like you said, you had to make choices and you made choices. And so I don't need to hear you cry about things that are
my God.
within your control to try to rectify. Any boobs. Then we go to Palm Springs and we have a really great friendship fight, or at least I responded to it in a way that felt like it's super quick, it's super intense. It's Gina and Emily there. They start by playing pickleball, and Gina says, I want to talk to you, Emily. And Emily goes, no, fuck off.
I know. I loved it.
It
It was so funny.
The perfect start because you could feel the emotion was so high already.
Yep.
And then they basically just sort of talk about what everyone has been gossiping about the other, that Gina has heard that Emily says that Gina's relationship dynamic with Heather is when you say jump, Gina says how high. And Gina is concerned about Emily's relationship with Tamra because this will turn her into the grand bitch. And then I don't know, they just sort of bicker back and forth. And Gina then throws a tantrum and tries to storm off, which leads to this moment of reconciliation where Emily in tears says like, oh, I don't know why I'm about to cry. Where Emily in tears says, it hurts my feelings that you would think less of me. And like, that's how much her friend's opinion matters to her. And Gina gets it and then whines about Travis for a second and then comes back into the moment and they hug. And Emily says this had to happen. Things had built up. We just needed to have this moment. In the friendship totem pole, you're at the top, which I was like, is that okay to say anymore? I don't know. But she said it and it made sense. And I don't know. I just thought it was, for me, a somewhat realistic representation, at least of fights that I have like with my sister or people
Totally.
really, really close to me who's like,
Yep.
we flare up and then we love each other. It was all about how much we love each other and that we were
Yep.
hurt.
Yeah. And it just gave an insight. It gave like a little snapshot into that like thing that, and I can relate to Emily on this, like, oh God, yes, I am known for not mincing my words, but sometimes I do have second thoughts about it and don't always like myself for making those choices when I make those choices. And so, and my friend is saying it to me and it's like, ugh. They might judge me like I judge me. And that feels so scary. You know?
Yeah.
At least that's what I projected onto the scene.
No, I think that's true. I think that's just that fear of like when super close friends make new friends, there's a fear. It's that like, what is it? Oh God, what's the mindset? The opposite of an abundance mindset? Limited, lack? I don't know. Anyways, there's
Scarcity.
There it is, scarcity. There's a fear that if someone super close to me starts making good friends with someone else, that means some of our friendship disappears with that energy.
Yep.
And that's not true.
I
And
know.
sometimes you just have to have those conversations to be like, hey, we're the same. I'm branching out and like getting to know other people, but like this is solid. The roots have taken hold in this friendship. So this is not just going to be uprooted and disposed of without concern.
And it was interesting to see the roll tape when Emily says Heather's like the godfather and Gina comes in and kisses the ring and all this crap, and like just seeing it all the footage, you're like, oh my God. Yeah.
I'm sorry I raised
is.
my voice in your house. If you ever said something like that to me, I would be like, now you're
are you?
required to yell for the
Right.
rest of the day because that's an absurd thing to say. Like, God forbid you're a person who has like an emotional emphasis in some conversation. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
And then for Heather to not say like, you're being ridiculous,
Yes,
you're loud,
exactly.
and
That's
like,
it.
listen, anyone's voice in this fucking cavernous mall echoes, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Every voice is a
Or if
raised
you're
voice.
really bothered by it, she could have just said like, yeah, that was really unpleasant and let's make an effort to not have it happen again.
But instead it was the
Exactly.
look like
Yeah.
you did do that. You
And I
fucking,
won't forget it. I won't
yeah.
forget it.
Yeah, you did
It's
that. It's real
defining you now.
unfortunate. Yep.
So gross.
Wow, you have a lot to work. You have to,
Yeah.
you have to earn my trust again.
This is why
You
you're
did that.
poor. This is
Yeah,
why you're
exactly.
poor.
This is why you're poor.
Ugh.
My note is that they go back to Big Bear, and I wrote, poor Jen is falling for Tamra's BS. I don't remember what that was in reference to.
Well, we go back to Big Bear and we start with a little scene with Alexis and Katie, where Alexis sort of condemns Katie for laughing when Heather said, well, this
Oh,
was
God.
lovely, and then tries to coach her in how to apologize. And I really appreciate Katie for being like, look, I'll apologize because I don't want any attention. And I am sorry if that upset her, but I'm not going to Katie really has perspective and it's lovely. And then we go to Jen and Tamra, and Jen is saying she's happy with her, like the status of their friendship. But I appreciated Jen for following up with, she says, I see you attacking Shannon. I see what you're doing. And she suggests taking a new approach. And she says, if this is family and this is someone you love, you owe her a hard conversation lovingly. And then she follows up with this profound little nugget. She goes, I know she's not where you think she needs to be, but I do think that she's doing better than she was. And I was like, oh, you just summarized 12-step work. Because everyone in the world wants you to go from drunk to sober and recovered. And it's, as they say in the rooms, the road narrows. You don't just start at finished. You have to fucking get there. And Jen acknowledging she's doing better than she was. And I understand you're frustrated. She's not where you want her to be, but that's not. And Gina reiterates it in a conversation later. It's not on your timeline. You can't strangle someone into recovery. So anyways, I appreciated that little moment of wisdom.
How is Jen like this?
I don't know. I mean, I think she's just a sensitive person who assumes everyone has genuine care.
Wow.
Because Tamra was defensive in this conversation. And if she really did love Shannon, I feel like at the very end of the episode, she does soften a little bit. But if I really love someone and someone brought this argument to me, I would be like, I wouldn't be defensive. I would at least consider it and likely say like, wow, thank you for shifting my perspective. You're right. I want her to be done. And I need to just be here to support her along the road.
Yeah.
Go to Al-Anon.
Jeez. Tamra's sick.
She
Tamra's
is.
real sick. She is sick. And I don't know if she is constitutionally incapable of being honest with herself or other people. I don't know. She sure rationalizes all of her shitty behavior.
She does. That seems to be the driving principle for her is like,
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I want and then I'll come up with reasons why it's okay.
And then I'll cry at the end of it and
reset and do it all again.
Right, exactly. And then do it all again. And yet Vicky keeps coming back for it. Shannon keeps coming back for it. And
I mean, she must be a real magnetic personality. Like there must be something about Tamra. I know those people where I know they're not good people, and yet when I'm in their presence, I like want to be around them. There's something about their energy that's like, I want to talk. I want to be at that table. I want to talk with that group. It's weird.
There's a word. I don't know what it is in the DSM, but like there is something. That's a
diagnosis.
That's a trait that accompanies one of the, whether it's narcissistic or sociopathic or one of those things.
It's probably narcissistic because they are so charming when they want to. They read people really well. They know how to like hold court.
Gross.
Anyways, then we go back to Big Bear where Alexis is on the phone with John and she learns some news that makes her say the gloves are coming off. Thus the title of the episode. The gloves are coming off with Shannon. So, uh-oh. And then we flip back to Palm Springs where Heather is packing her HD labeled packing cubes that are all opaque black. Like I just, oh God, everything about her it just feels so exhausting.
I actually was like, oh, could that help me when I pack next time?
It's just more shit.
Okay.
The fact that they're labeled, like I could almost get behind that she has a bunch of different size packing cubes, but that they're like toiletries, underpants, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, oh my God, packing is already tiring enough. Like I just feel everything feels like a dark assignment with Heather. Even one travel trip is just like, here's all my things.
You know, I hate
I
packing. I've
know.
been talking about this since the fucking beginning days of this podcast, and having just had to pack for a week, not knowing what our, total plans were. Like I needed to have some stuff for just, I didn't know what to expect. So I had to pack, like you had to use the biggest suitcase. And yeah, I have to take a fucking metric ton of a mini pharmacy with me when I go somewhere, about 5 different pairs of glasses, and I was like, God, could I use I have packing cubes. I have these great little these silicone Ziploc bags from Trader Joe's. If you see them, it's 3 for $9.99, and they're great for using in your suitcase. I've got other Baggu zip bags, and it's like I'm always struggling still with how to pack and what to pack and where's it going to go. And I don't know, but
I mean,
I see what you're
maybe.
saying.
No, but it actually, now I see what you're saying. Like if those are all personalized, like if someone did that for me, that was like one is like medications, one is, hair stuff, one
Mm-hmm.
is face stuff, one, like that would help me. Maybe if it's all personalized to like how I pack and what I usually forget, that would be great. But if it's, yeah, and I'm sure they're all personalized to her. Who am I kidding? But for a 1 day trip, I was like, girl,
Yeah, that's true. For a 1 day trip.
God,
True.
just like
True.
take one
True.
of each out of the bin at Target of the travel size stuff and hit the road.
I see what you're saying. I know that, man, packing takes such a toll on my mental health. Like
Mm.
2 weeks before I'm leaving for somewhere, I'm like, oh, fuck, it's coming. Oh, shit. Okay. Because it's like the laundry and the organizing and the parsing out of the 3 pills. And this is the stuff I take at night. This is the stuff I take in the, just protein bars and the hands, just everything. It's just such a
Yes,
fucking slog. I hate
it
it.
is. I hate it too. And like figuring out what goes in the carry-on and like if they lose
Mm-hmm.
my bags, I should have clothes in here and but I had to have my computer and blah, blah, blah. It's just so
Right.
like
I know.
that's why I like driving to your house with all of my
Dude, I
suitcases and
love
all of
road
my
trips. You just
clothes.
throw it in and you're just like, fuck it. I don't know, but I
Bags
don't
on
have to
bags
deal
on
with it
bags.
now. Right.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's something, what is that feeling of security when I'm with my things? Why?
It's just for me, I like being able to bring everything so that I don't have to waste time. If I get to come visit you, the last thing I want to do is be like, oh, I don't have a sweatshirt. I got to go buy a sweatshirt. That's an hour of time taken away from my time with you, or it'll interrupt something else. So I like to have everything so that I don't have to like need anything so that I can really focus on the purpose of my trip, which is like time with my friend or visiting museums in a foreign country or whatever. I don't have to
I
go
hear
like, I
you.
need an umbrella. Can we find an umbrella?
I hope you know that if you ever came to my house and forgot anything, I probably have what you need in triplicate. So you would never be without a sweatshirt
I
here.
know, I know.
I'm
And
just saying, but
yeah.
I understand. I understand what you're talking about, though. I do. I wouldn't be talking about this if it didn't take a toll on my mental health
Preach.
when a trip comes up. It's just a real fucking source of angst. So the next note I have is about dinner, but I'm pretty sure stuff happened in between them coming back from their respective trips, and then
Well, we did have the big bear scene where Alexis breaks down when she's
okay,
talking to Katie. And that's where
yeah,
I just wrote, grieve your mom, honey. This isn't your fight. Because won't share what pushed John to the limit because it's not any of her fucking business. She wasn't around when John gave Shannon it's their fight. Stay out of it. And she yells at Katie, we have the footage. We held it this whole time. It'll ruin her life. I'm like, we? What do you
gross,
mean we? You weren't there when that night happened. Like,
gross.
stay out of it. But again, it's just like that degree of sobbing is so much bigger than ring camera footage of an event that Alexis had no part in. And it affects her mildly. I've dated divorced people, so I understand when their spouse is dysregulating their nervous system, it affects their relationship with me. And I never engaged in those fights. I either did my best to support the person or took a couple nights away to be like, this feels like something that you need to work out. And I don't need to get in there and be like, she's a bitch, she's blah, blah, blah. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't, I don't know her. I got here after her. So like, I don't know. So yeah, Alexis, I think she just needs some attention for this loss of her mom. And this is how she's getting it.
It's been a while since we've shared the phrase, if it's hysterical, it's historical. And by no means am I saying grieving her mom in whatever way she's grieving her mom passing is hysterical. My whole thing is that the reaction, I think what Margee and I are saying is that the reaction that she had to this news didn't seem commensurate with the sobbing on the bed with the, you're absolutely right. If it's hysterical, it's historical. This is not about.
And every new grief brings
Shannon.
up every old grief. Like they're always compounding and they're always fresh and raw when a new one arises. So part of me feels for her, but I don't care for someone villainizing and punishing in someone else in this like really intense way, threatening to release tapes of her running over a human being. Like, oh my God, nearly running over a human being. It's just a lot.
Totally. And I mean, it's relevant. I just will wrap up on this really quickly. Like I keep telling my husband right now, like grief is not fucking linear. And I don't think he's anywhere near like a quote unquote getting over the worst being behind him. Nothing like that. It's like, you never know what new thing, right? You just said, like, you never know what new thing is going to trigger something, or if the scab is mostly healed, is that thing that you encounter going to like nick open a little corner of it and like a little bit of fresh blood's going to come, to the surface. And so it's complicated. Grief is complicated. And I don't want to say stealthy, mysterious. That's what I want to say. It's mysterious.
Well, and it's like ever present. Like I came up with an analogy that helped me like understand it a little bit, which is like the Twin Towers. So I was born in New York City when those things were still up, and they, I moved there after college, and that's how I oriented myself in the city. Was the towers were south, and that's how I could figure out what direction I was going. And then they were gone, and then they built that beautiful footprint memorial. Mm-hmm. But they also built this new building up, and the rhythm of the city is back in action, and everything's in motion again. And if you didn't know the Twin Towers were there, you wouldn't miss them. And I got to the place where like I hardly miss them. And then occasionally I'll walk by that footprint and I'll catch my breath and it'll like wrench my heart and I'll remember all of it. And I feel like that's sort of what grief is like you get back into a rhythm, you rebuild, and then occasionally you catch sight of what once was, and the ache is as deep as it ever was. And that site is that memorial is so beautiful. It's this, like it's, and it's the actual size of the footprint of the building. Like, it's just, that's what grief is. Like you become a new shape once something is removed that had been there for so long. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, it was part of the daily topography of your life. And now it's gone. And yeah, occasionally you catch a glimpse of the scar and it hurts, fucking hurts. Yeah. So anyways, we're back in the OC and everyone's dogs are shitting everywhere.
Oh my God.
That was so gross.
It was disgusting.
It was a very long, and I'm here for like farts and poop, but I was like, guys, this is a really...
Who did this?
Truly.
Who did this?
The editors were just like, well, and they showed pictures of the poo. I was like, we don't need this.
I don't need it at all.
Need this.
I don't need it. And I'm someone that like loves dogs and will clean up a dog shit. Like, obviously,
sure.
Like I know that's part of the deal, but goddamn.
Goddamn, indeed.
I don't need to see it.
No.
In like
and talk about
high
it.
Def.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we saw Jen's dog shit and then we heard Katie's kids talking about it. And I was like, can we move on?
Yeah.
And we did. And we go to Gina's house that is heavily under construction, and Tamra
Oh,
comes to
that's right.
visit. And Gina seems surprised that Travis feels erased by her immediate renovations. Like the second he pulled away, a construction crew came in and like changed the whole house as if he'd never existed. And she's like, I can't believe he feels like he's been. I'm like, this storyline needs to die for me because like I can't with Gina.
There was a metric ton of speculation on this on the Bravo Real Housewives subreddit as well.
Yeah.
About like what is going on. And the general consensus is very different from ours. Like they're like, Gina has every right and Gina should be like prioritizing her children. And you and I are like, oh my God, these children are going to be scarred from this.
I actually agree wholeheartedly with that. My addendum would be that when she and Travis moved their children in together for 5 years, those became her children as well.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, she deserves to prioritize her children, but she has 6 now. That's what she did. Oh my God, it's so destabilizing for them. But speaking of kids, we then stop into Katie and Emily meeting at a candy store to introduce their kids.
Oh my God.
And it was the cutest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
It might be my favorite Orange County scene of all time. The kids like meet
so
and they do
cute.
that thing where they like immediately walk up to each other and they go like, hi, how old are you? I'm 9, I'm 6. And then they like high five. And then they go and like look at Candy. And at one point, I think it's Katie's son who like runs his hands through the peppermint candies and he goes, so satisfying.
Oh my God. I loved it. I loved
So
it.
cute.
Leo does that too because I'll be like, it's something that's like, oh, I don't know what I love to say that something is satisfying. It's true. Like it satisfies like something in me that's sensory or the sound or the feeling. It's never like a thing. It's a,
Something
you know what
that
I'm saying.
touches one of your senses. Yeah.
Yes. And Leo has learned to say it too. He's like, oh God, that's so satisfying, mama, you know?
I love
So
it.
I loved that he said that.
It
Yeah,
was
that
so
was
cute.
Katie's kid's real cute.
God, they're
Emily's
adorable.
kid was cute too. They were
Yes.
both real cute. Yeah. Yeah.
And then we just sort of do some ramping up too. Katie reports that their trip was really fun, and Emily says that their trip was like a mix of fun and drama. Basically, the story point is that Katie comes to the conclusion that she thought Gina was a girl's girl for her, but now she realizes Gina is a girl's girl for Heather first and foremost. And Katie says, I'm not going to trust that anymore. And I was like, Katie is on it. She's great. And then we go back to Tamra and Gina, echoing Jen's earlier conversation with Tamra, tells her to take another approach with Shannon. And I really loved the scene because, yeah, Gina shared her experience, strength, and hope, which is what they tell you to do in 12-step rooms. Because Tamra's first question was, she goes, did Shannon drink on the trip? And I just wrote in all caps, go to Al-Anon, because clocking someone's drinking is a sign of your own sickness. That's not normal. And then Tamra, this is so great, claims that Gina, she's like, well, Gina, you didn't have a drinking problem. And Gina corrects her. And she's like, oh, I did. Alcohol had more control over me than I had over it. I don't consider myself an alcoholic, but I had a problematic relationship with alcohol. And Tamra was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then Gina explains what happened, the way her road narrows. She said she did not stop drinking after her DUI because she felt like a loser and she was ready to take responsibility for the mistakes she had made, but she was not ready to admit she had a problem with alcohol. So her first step was to take responsibility for driving under the influence. And that led her to recognizing a problematic relationship with alcohol. And she says to Tamra, you can't force someone to become aware of it. They have to get there themselves. And Tamra goes, but it's the manipulation. It's the lying. And Gina goes, but that's a broken woman in pain. And she needs real friends right now. And I was like, woo.
Yeah.
That's addiction, baby.
Yep. 100%. Tamra's she's beyond. I'm sorry. She's beyond. She's with the Ramona singers of the housewives sphere. And yeah, she's beyond.
Because she ends this insisting that tough love is the answer. Because she says something about like, if all these people are being nice to Shannon, so she thinks they're on her side. which will give her permission to backslide. And it's like, you don't understand anything about healthy
No.
healing. Healthy healing means like honest, supportive friendship. And like, I think you're right. Tamra's probably not capable of such a thing. So,
Okay, Tamra, you want some tough love about your fucking relationship with Sydney? Let's
right.
meet and have some coffee.
Never.
Okay? Right, exactly.
She would
Full
never.
fucking hip.
Right.
Anyway, yeah.
Then we touch down with Emily and Katie again, and Katie tells Emily about the Ring camera footage of Shannon almost running over John's daughter, I guess. I do love Katie for being like, this is where she's housewiving at like, you know, at her peak, just immediately going like, not there's incriminating Ring camera footage. She explicitly states what's in it. So we don't even need to see it. And then Emily says, if John and Alexis are so happy together, just ride off into the sunset. Why drag Shannon's lifeless body along behind you?
Exactly.
I think that
Exactly.
truer words never spoken. Then we touch in with, I'm just plowing through this because you mentioned you didn't have notes. We're with Jen and Ryan getting pedicures. And,
Oh, God, that's
Yeah.
right. Jesus.
and there's nothing really to this. Basically, just that Ryan has more thoughts on Jen's parenting when she takes a call from her sweet son asking about toilet papering in the daytime. It's so cute.
I did have some thoughts. Like, again, a broken clock is right 2 times a day. And when Ryan said in the morning, you ask 5 kids what they want for breakfast and they all said something different and you make them. I am so guilty of this. And I think I can speak on behalf of my husband because we've talked about this. Like, we're so committed to honoring and respecting our son's personhood because we don't want him to grow up feeling the way that we did, that sometimes I wonder if we are, I don't know what other terminology to use other than overindulging. You know, like, I would love to be able to just put something on the fucking table for dinner and be like, this is what we're having. And if you don't want it, you don't eat. But I also don't want my kid to go to bed hungry. Like, that's not okay either. But it's hard. It's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I mean, I think Ryan had a point. You know, he said you could make this a little easier on yourself.
Yes.
But I thought Jen had a point, which is like she feels so much guilt for, as she put it, changing their lives by putting them through a divorce. Like she, unlike Gina,
I was just gonna say.
recognizes how intensely these kind of changes affect kids. And her reaction, unlike Gina, is to overcorrect by overcoddling. And she does say, and now I fear I've taught them nothing,
Yeah.
which isn't true, but there is that flashback they show with her son Dawson where he is resisting all these new changes that have gone into place since moving into Ryan's, where like he has a 9:30 curfew. And by the way, if I was 17, I would be like, up yours. In a
Right.
matter of months, I'm a full
Yeah.
adult, and 9:30?
9:30 is
What is
ridiculous.
that bullshit?
Right.
But part of me was like, well, maybe that's the greater purpose of this family moving in with Ryan. Maybe
Wow.
that's an opportunity that Jen would never have taken before to teach her kids something because she fears she hasn't. So who knows? Anyways, we're finally on our way to dinner. Tamra
Ay,
calls
ay,
Jen.
ay.
Shannon calls Heather. Tamra claims she's going to go in with an open heart, but as we see, she immediately mocks and belittles Shannon the first chance she gets when they sit down.
God.
Yeah. And
God.
Tamra comes in just all wrong. Like, I'm just going to start this by saying I think you should have reached out to me. And Shannon, after ordering a sparkling water, pointedly ordering a sparkling water, she says, after the way you spoke to me at that dinner, I'm supposed to reach out to you. And that's when Tamra starts mocking her. It was just so rude.
It was dia-fucking-bolical.
But this to me was sort of like, this is the conversation of an unrecovered alcoholic and Al-Anon, because Shannon says, I'm focusing on being healthy. And Tamra asks, are you still drinking? Al-Anon. And Shannon goes, I only have 2, or I don't think I've ever gone over 2, alcoholic. And Tamra goes, so you don't have a drinking problem? Like, this is, you know, just the classic trying to like manage, control, mother, manipulate bullshit. And then Shannon, to her credit, does acknowledge that she has used alcohol excessively in the darker times in her life. And I thought that if I was there with a truly open heart, if I'm Tamra there with a truly open heart, I would have been encouraged to hear that. But she did follow it up, Shannon, by saying, if I get to the point where alcohol is an issue for me, then I absolutely will look at it. And I was like, you drove into a house?
Dude.
Are we sure it's not a issue? Because,
Dude.
oh
I don't
boy.
drive into houses. Yeah.
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 And then pretend to walk your dog. Like, again, the circumstances of her DUI are so nuts. And if she doesn't think that alcohol informed her decision making and doesn't see that as problematic, like, whatever, like Gina said, she's on a path. She's not done yet. And then I don't know, Shannon basically, Tamra calls her out on camera for having in the past asked a photographer to sneak alcohol into her Diet Coke. And clearly Tamra took nothing from her conversations with Jen or Gina, and she's just coming in a full asshole. And then Shannon mistakenly tries to take Tamra's inventory and says like, well, I've caught you in moments of indiscretion. And then Tamra shuts it down with, have I drove my car into a house? And then Shannon storms off. And Tamra asks, did she go to get a drink? And it's just like, this is the most toxic, fucked up situation. These two have no business trying to have a conversation right now. Shannon is not recovered enough, and Tamra is Tamra. So this is a disaster.
Full disaster. I can be a bitch and I don't necessarily mince words, you know what I mean? Like my history with Bill at Walgreens, but like I would have to work extra hard double time to be a dick to the level that Tamra Judge is a dick. That's not tough love. That's looking for someone to abuse for sport.
On camera to bring up, yeah, you're right. It does take effort. And she put thought into this performance. She picked her, the anecdotes that she was going to, spill on for all the people to see. It's just so. And I do appreciate Shannon returns after having a little breakdown in the bathroom. And I loved her because she came back and said, this is what I've learned to do. I've learned to walk away and take a breath when I'm upset. And I was like, she really, again, if I'm there with a genuinely open heart, at least at that moment, I'm going like, oh, wow, this is new for you. I'm proud to see you come back and happy we can continue this conversation. But Shannon explains to Tamra that she's trying to dig herself out of a hole. And Tamra, along with like John Jansen and Alexis Bellino, is one of the people like just throwing dirt on her and trying to kick her back down. And Shannon says she's focusing on herself and a small circle of supportive people. And Tamra says, I was there for 10 years. I listened to you for 10 years. Does that not count? And it's like, of course it counts. But Shannon is in deep crisis and you're in ultimate bitch mode. And she's in hardcore crisis. And you can't be bothered to find any tenderness in this moment for your so-called friend. It's so gross.
It's so gross. It's so gross. She's so gross. She's so gross, dude.
Yeah. And then Shannon mentions that she was upset with Tamra for backing Alexis Bellino at Gina's dinner party when this John Jansen situation came up. And Shannon shares with Tamra that John is now suing her for not a penny less than $75,000. And Tamra suddenly becomes sympathetic because now this moment is reminiscent of a lawsuit that caused her pain in her own life. And so now suddenly she's like, oh, okay. She initiates an apology by inviting Shannon to a party. And Shannon overreacts with gratitude. And they hug. And Tamra does finally say, I'm sorry for yelling at you at Gina's dinner. And she says, I really do love you and I want what's best for you. And I didn't believe that part. But that's what's so fucked up about Tamra. I do believe she knows what she's doing wrong. And she's not really sorry because it made for good scenes. And that's what she cares about more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah. She's trash. She's trash.
She sure
is. But she showed us she was trash. Like the minute that she tried to get her disgusting son, Ryan, into a bathroom with a wasted Gretchen Rossi. Like, what is this? Season 1? Season 2?
I don't
Naked
remember,
Wasted.
But it was...
if anyone doesn't know about Naked Wasted, just Google Tamra Naked Wasted. And yeah, she basically tried to set up one of her quote unquote friends / castmates
for an
to be
SA experience with her son.
Yep, exactly. And she's never, ever, ever publicly acknowledged or talked about it.
No.
She's disgusting. Anyway.
That's representative of who she is and who she remains. What else did you watch this week?
Oh God, not a lot because I don't even know if I watched anything.
Good. That means you were present in your life at like a pretty
Yeah.
critical moment in time.
Oh, you know what we did? We watched the convention.
Oh, yeah.
I watched it on my phone while getting ready. And then at the end of the trip, we were all sharing a hotel room. So I taped it on Hulu. We dialed it up on Hulu and then we split. We each got an earbud each
Oh,
and watched, I think, the last 2 nights of it. It worked. I'm fired up and ready to go. Wearing my 2012 shirt.
Yes, I noticed that.
It was good. I appreciated the strategy on the last night. All the national security bigwigs coming out. Like, I thought it was great. I'm, fired up, ready to go.
Yeah, lots of
Yeah. Oh,
reasons
God.
to
I mean, the
feel hopeful.
Obamas.
Oh, my God. I literally did think when both of them spoke, I was like, I have been alive for a once in a lifetime political presence. There is nobody does it better and nobody will in my lifetime. Maybe they will, but the Obamas, both of them, are the
Both of
best
them.
suited people on the planet ever for those roles. Michelle destroyed in the most classy way I could ever imagine. Like, it's just, they're so smart, they're so real, they're so truly invested in the good of this country that
Yeah.
it's hard to, there's no fault to find, no notes, as they say.
Hashtag no notes. Exactly. I mean, I loved that everyone's like, dude, why didn't they put Michelle on after Barack? And
Right?
Barack's like, I don't know why I'm doing this last.
I know, but I love that about both of them. And
I
I
do
love when they
too.
hug and kiss. Like,
Me too.
and we know they've been through hell. She shared about it openly. Like that job is not conducive to an easy marriage or
Fuck
child
no.
rearing. And I love them.
I do too.
It was such a pleasure to see them. And it reminds me of like what I believe government can or could be. Imperfect always, but like there are people who actually understand the Constitution and care to execute it in a way that best serves the people of the nation. So,
Oh, God. It was great. I can't remember a convention that motivating and inspirational in a long time.
not since '08, I would
I could,
say.
yeah, I don't need to go on. I was going to say, I could do without, well, here I am. I'm going to say it. I could do without the Clintons being trotted out everywhere. Like, okay, all right. We've moved on. This is a different time now.
I
And
agree.
we know a lot about
Because all
Bill.
those voters are going to vote for the Democratic
Exactly.
ticket. We don't need
Exactly.
them to garner any new vote. Like I could have done without them as well.
Let's replace them as top billing surrogates.
But
Just
it's
my 2
fine.
cents.
It's sort of like this is your life parade of people. And
I felt like
again,
it could hurt them. I felt like it can stop being an asset and start being a fuck.
detriment, liability.
Thank you. Yeah, a liability. Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I just think I'm so convinced that this election hangs in Gen Z. And I think they
It
look at those
absolutely
two
does.
old farts and they're like, who? Who cares?
Exactly.
They were born with Obama. And so they're like, let's fucking go.
They are the ones that are not going to let like everyone else's, turning their cheek on Bill Clinton's past. Gen Z is not going to do that.
Well,
And that's why I think that they made a bad choice by including them.
Yeah. It's probably donor related or something. I mean,
Oh,
there's
100%.
still plenty of corruption, but
Oh, yeah,
But
absolutely.
the good news
Anywho.
is Michelle and Barack overshadowed everybody else who took that
Yeah.
stage. So the taste left in people's mouths is hopefully positive.
What did you watch, friend?
I watched some of the convention and then I watched that new series on HBO Max. Oh, fuck. Chimp Lady, I think is what it's called. It's by the same people who did Tiger King, and it follows this lady who ran a chimp. What's it called? Rescue.
Sanctuary?
Yes, Sanctuary. That's it. And it got shut down. And then the intrigue is that the government came in to claim all of the chimps, and one was missing, her favorite one. And she claims he died like the night before the government got there, but she's not distraught in any way, shape, or form. And so it appears that Chimp Lady and Tonka are in cahoots and he's out there in the world somewhere. So anyways, it's really weird and compelling. And she gets her lashes and lips done on camera. Like it's just she spends her whole life in cages with chimps and she still has like a degree of vanity that like, do we all have it now because of social media? Like the chimps don't give a shit. Like they really don't. She doesn't come in and they go like, great lashes. Like, nobody could care less. They're like, where's my bananas? Anyways, it's fascinating. I'm really into it. And it's a once a weeker. So I have to like wait to find out,
Old school.
very.
Old school. Oh, I love that.
And what was your antidepressant in a week that was pretty heavy?
Yeah, it was definitely being with dear friends. Absolutely. Being with dear friends. Yeah, being with dear friends, like holding my family close, literally and figuratively. Yeah, it was just a week of like really being clear on like what's important and what's not important. What should be prioritized and what should be. Yeah. My husband has a huge, very tender heart. And his friends just really showed up for him. My family, our kid, like it was lovely. So, yeah, we really just showed up for each other and it was nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It really does bring into sharp focus like what immediately matters and what
Exactly.
is distraction. So
Yes, exactly.
those are really
Exactly.
hard times, but that it's a comforting, strangely comforting like lesson to get in touch with, I
Yep.
guess, for me.
Yep.
But
It was,
yeah, I'm so sorry. This was I know you had a heavy one. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, friend. And I was very grateful to be able to reach out to you.
I'm so glad we
Mhm.
could connect in that time. Like
Me
it's
too.
so important for people supporting people who are grieving to have
Yeah.
support.
Exactly.
It's really,
I
it's
agree.
a lot for the whole circle. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. How about you, friend? What was your antidepressant?
On a very different note, my antidepressant was a friend of mine wrote a show called The Tuck Cracker, which is a drag version of the Nutcracker. And he did his first staged reading of it yesterday afternoon, and it was phenomenal. I told him, I'm like, this is everything that I wanted Hamilton to be. Like, it's so smart. It's so funny. The message is so sweet, but it's not delivered in any like saccharine way that makes you go like, okay. It's just, it was so great. So I mentioned it here. You heard it here first. I feel like this is going to be something big. The music is outstanding. It's just the world is so ripe for everything that this is. Like the Nutcracker, I love it so much. I watch the ballet like 20 times every holiday season. But I'm also really ready for a new take on it. And this was it's just, it opens with a white family called the Borringtons.
Oh my
The
God.
opening scene in the Nutcracker is that party scene where it's just rich
Uh-huh.
people kissing on the cheek and being like, hello, 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 hello. Like it's so boring. And then Godfather Drosselmeyer, which is just a regular old white uncle in the ballet, is this like fantastic black drag queen who comes in and you get the idea. It's the Tuck
Yeah.
Cracker, all right? So it's a big drag show and it's so high energy and it was so much fun. And yeah, I wish great things for it.
Oh
So
my God,
keep
me
your eyes out
too.
if you ever see the Tuck Cracker in town. I cannot recommend enough. It was so great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We have reached the end of another episode of A Therapeutic Dose.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. If you have a moment, just make sure that your downloads are turned on. If you are subscribing to us, make sure that your show is automatically set to download as well. That would really help us. You can find us on social media at A Therapeutic Dose. You can also reach us at atherapeuticdose@gmail.com. I promise I will get better at social media and resume our YouTube posting.
Look, until I'm on Ozempic, I don't need anything posted with images. You know what I mean?
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not, and it's fine. We don't need to get into the details of it. I'm simply saying, like, I'm okay with us being an audio format. It's why we started it. It's how I listen to
know.
podcasts. I don't like to be distracted by. I don't want to. I don't.
Margie, you're beautiful.
I know you're so nice.
I'm not being nice. I'm not being nice. I like literally.
I get it. I get it. I get it. I hear you. I do.
I
but you know
understand.
what it's like to
I
be.
do.
Okay.
Trust
Yes. So
me. Yes, I do know.
Nothing
I do
is
know.
permanent. This is a fleeting chapter in life. And yet I don't miss a visual representation of this moment in time in my life. But listen, but it's also great because it will in some time it will be a piece of history, and I'll be in a new place, as my first sponsor in my first 12-step program always says, a year from now, we won't be having the same conversation.
Oh, God. I
So
have hung on to that so many times.
yeah, whatever
Yes, and it's
physically,
true.
emotionally, and spiritually ails me today will have shifted a year from now. So, for the
I'm sorry I
archives, I
keep
suppose.
yawning.
That's
Oh, my
okay.
God.
Dude, you've had a hell of a week.
It's
Please go
been,
take a nap.
I honestly, and just as like a parting suggestion, because we always say to take care, I really would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that Shannon got up and said, I need to walk away right now. So whatever you need to walk away from this week, whatever you need to step away from, be it literal, figuratively, I invite you to do that when I take a deep breath. Like if I am feeling something weird and I hold a cold can of LaCroix next to my arm, just that physical sensation can sometimes shift something. Do whatever it takes to have that Shannon Bedore moment of getting up and walking away from Tamra. Maybe it means you don't have to say sorry for something shitty you would have said or did if you had not walked away. Maybe it'll allow some space for compassion for yourself by taking a little break from whatever. That's all I have to say. You know what I'm saying. I don't need to browbeat anybody with more examples.
It's hardly browbeating. It's such a welcome reminder. Like as I head into a work day, I'm grateful to be reminded of this. So
Yeah.
I will take that with me. I love you so
I
much.
love you
Thank
so
you for
much.
taking this time. You,
Thank
sweet
you.
Ramona, everybody listening.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. And we will talk next week.
We will talk next week, everyone.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Ramona and Margee are
Obviously
not doctors and do not provide medical advice. Their content is intended to be used for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be, should not be interpreted as, or used as a substitute for medical advice or a diagnosis of any health or fitness problem, condition, or disease, nor a recommendation for a specific test, doctor, care provider, procedure, treatment plan, product, or course of action.
My mom isn't a doctor.